News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
Former U of M law professor Rob Natelson weighs in on the death of Antonin Scalia. Good morning, everyone. It's Montana Morning. It's Monday, February 15th, 2016. Yes, it is President's Day. A lot of folks have the day off today. As a matter of fact, I'm all alone in the entire studio today, but that's okay. Just you and me. Rain, 35 degrees in Missoula right now. Roads are bare and wet throughout western Montana. At our newscast this morning, sponsored by Nissan and Hyundai of Missoula, under new management, offering rebates, discounts, and 0% financing on a huge selection of inventory, located on Brooks, near Southgate Mall. Our top story this morning, deep tremors felt all over the judicial and political realms in the U.S. Saturday, with the passing of noted jurist and U.S. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. Constitutional fellow for the Independence Institute, Rob Natelson, related a personal experience with the jurist.
While I never actually met him, after he visited the University of Montana and made some assumptions about me that somebody pointed out were not true, he sent me a letter essentially apologizing and urging me to come to Washington, D.C. and visit him.
Natelson said he and the entire judicial world had great respect for Scalia.
I was absolutely crushed. This is a person who is, by all accounts, one of the greatest justices in recent times, perhaps of all time. Everybody across the spectrum agrees, probably the greatest intellect on the court.
Natelson said the process to replace Scalia on the court will be fraught with political intrigue.
There's nothing in the Constitution that it requires there to be 9 justices, and there's nothing in the Constitution that would require the Republican Senate to approve President Obama's nominations.
Natelson will be on the KGVO Talkback Show from 8:30 until 9 o'clock this morning in a special non-scheduled appearance to talk about the death of Antonin Scalia and what it may mean to the U.S. Supreme Court and to America. Economists say manufacturing, tourism, and consumer spending are expected to keep fueling Montana's economy this year. Norman Nickerson of the Institute for Tourism and Recreation Research projected another big year for national park visitation and ski resorts. Todd Morgan from the Bureau of Business and Economic Research said Montana manufacturers are expecting a better year than 2015. The Daily Interlake reports about 45% of surveyed manufacturers said they're planning to increase employment, with 4% said they're expected to reduce staff. Pat Barkey of the University of Montana Bureau of Business and Economic Research says consumers are propelling Montana's economic growth. Missoula County Attorney's Office is currently investigating death threats and other actions against 3 Lolo men who have been charged with aggravated animal cruelty and tampering with evidence after allegedly injuring over 20 pets with blow darts last fall. Deputy Missoula County Attorney Andrew Paul confirmed the information on Friday.
There have been basically death threats and calling out some of these young men to actually end their own lives, and that is illegal, and it's a violation of the law that is not covered by the First Amendment.
Paul said privacy in communications is the statute that protects people from harassment through the phone, email, or by text.
Talks about obscene, lewd, or profane language, or suggests lewd language or threats of injury or physical harm to the person or property. So those are the kinds of things that are covered by the statute.
Paul encourages animal lovers who are outraged by the actions of the 3 suspects to let the law take its course. Because a conviction for aggravated animal cruelty brings up to 2 years in prison and a $2,500 fine, while tampering with or destroying physical evidence can bring up to 10 years in prison and up to a $50,000 fine. Federal judges in Washington, D.C. and Nevada have agreed to give environmental lawyers a seat at the table in separate legal battles between the government and opponents of the U.S. protections for the greater sage grouse. The Wilderness Society, National Wildlife Federation, and mining watchdog group Earthworks all recently won formal intervener status in lawsuits several Nevada counties filed in Reno and Idaho's governor filed in Washington last fall. The environmentalists say they back the Obama administration's new land use planning amendments that protect thousands of square miles of grouse habitat across the West. But they say they have their own interests that cannot be adequately represented by government lawyers at the Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management, so they want their own lawyers. As the primary race between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton heats up, many Democrats are starting to question an aspect of their own party's primary process, allowing some delegates to choose a candidate regardless of how their state votes. Executive Director of the Montana Democratic Party, Nancy Keenan, says Montana has 6 of these so-called super delegates.
The Montana Democratic Party is allocated 27 total delegates. 6 of them are super delegates, and that happens to be Senator John Tester, Governor Steve Bullock, our chair and vice chair at the party, and then the national committee man and the national committee woman. So those are the 6 that are, quote-unquote, super delegates.
Around 15% of the delegates at the national convention are super delegates, and a large number of them have already signaled they prefer Clinton to Sanders. However, a special Montana rule means voters will have to wait till summer to discover which way our state super delegates plan on voting.
It has been both tradition and historical, and a little bit broadly in our rules, that those delegates maintain neutrality throughout the contested primary. So until June, when everybody in Montana gets to vote, and the superdelegates will also align themselves with a presidential candidate.
The superdelegate system is unique to the Democratic Party, though the Republican system is also confusing, even to those that study the process due to different rules in differing states. And speaking of Democrats, Missoula County Democrats have expressed strong support for Missoula leaders who have come out in favor of refugee resettlement in Missoula. Precinct Committeeman Klaus von Stutterheim, author of a resolution, said America has always been known as a country that welcomes refugees.
The spirit of generosity and hospitality and compassion, that is one of the things that's been America's hallmarks through its history, is something that we ought to not forget in a moment of hysteria that's fanned particularly by the presidential campaign.
Von Stutterheim said the reaction of protesters in Missoula recently reminds him of his younger days in Germany after the aftermath of World War II and the Nazi movement.
One of the things that horrified us and haunts us to this day is how few people in Germany spoke up against, racial and religious hatred and made it possible for, unspeakable atrocities to take place.
At a recent protest at the Missoula County Courthouse, over 100 people gathered to voice their opposition to refugees, especially from Syria and other Middle Eastern countries that might possibly be resettled in Missoula. A hiking trail in northern Idaho reopened yesterday, but with an admonishment to hikers. I read for a living. Don't feed the goats. The U.S. Forest Service closed Scotchman Peak Trail in Kanisku National Forest near the Montana border last fall after human handouts had made mountain goats aggressive. One of the hoofed animals bit a hiker. Others had tried to headbutt hikers in an attempt to get food. The agency said some hikers had even let the goats eat from their hands, but the goats have since had time to find other food sources. Visitors should practice good goat etiquette, according to the Forest Service. Well, think about that. News Talk time now. You can put your own joke in there. 6:13.
News Talk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Clouds and scattered showers today with our high temperatures in the upper 40s. Winds will be breezy with wind gusts up to 15 miles per hour. Rain expected this evening with lows dipping into the low 30s. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for KECI 13.